Go ahead and let's do it. We'll pretend like we have a full room. It is too early to expect very many people. And then people may trickle in over the course of the panel. It's 2 hours long. That's very possible. But you know what? Just because you are so attentive this early in the morning, would you please come up to the front real quick? I'm going to give you a signed print. I was going to save them as prizes, but you know, because you are a prize.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for being here. So yes, this is Best of the Best, the wide world of Lerche. Lerche is a studio that used to have like an overwhelming presence in the seasonal anime game. They would have like 4 or 5 series every year for like several years, and then like they kind of just fell off, and like, they'd still have 1 or 2 every now and then, but it's just not as. I think it's really since pandemic really ruined a lot of anime studios. And I won't say ruined, it distracted them a little bit, and it caused them to have less productivity, and especially with Lerche, I've seen like 1 or 2 since the pandemic, but like they haven't really been at their peak even since like 2018. And so basically the Best of the Best series of panels, if you're not aware, essentially is just let's look at the history of these individual studios, look at the openings of the anime that they have done, kind of see the progression and the growth since they started and until now, until the present day, talk about some of the factors that led to their rise, their fall, etc., etc. Before we get into anything else, we need to talk about the beginning of what is now known as Studio Lerche. That being said, before there was Studio Lerche that we know and love today, there was a studio. That currently still exists, Studio Hibari. Now, the naming convention needs to be addressed. Studio Hibari is what they call Lerches in Japan. That's the Japanese name for Lerche. So it's kind of like they have a bird motif throughout their entire naming scheme, basically. So there's Lerche is obviously a lark, and then Hibari is a bird, and then there's also Lerche's Entertainment, which we'll talk about in a second. But starting off with Studio Hibari, it was founded in 1979. It was founded by Sachiko and Hiroyoshi Mitsunobu. Sachiko was at one time a cell colorist for Tsuchida Production, a studio responsible for Captain Tsubasa from 1983 to 1986. And Hiroyoshi was actually the director of Captain Tsubasa. Sachiko was Studio Hibari's founding president, but their son, Seiji Mitsunobu, became the studio's managing director in 1985. It should be noted here that the history of Studio Hibari is closely intertwined with that of Tsuchida Production, but because we really we have enough to talk about with Lerche and Lerche and all that we're not going to touch on the bankruptcy and plummeting of Tsuchida. To say that DEC, I don't know why I wrote that. Hibari didn't have much on deck would be an understatement. Aside from Shin Karate Jigoku-hen, the only other known OVA produced by DEC. Oh, sorry, yeah, DEC was. I'm getting out of order here. They basically created Shin Karate Jigoku-hen, which is an OVA with Studio DEC, and DEC didn't really have much else going on for it. The only other thing besides for that OVA is one they made in 1990 called Satsujin Kipu wa Heart Iro, or Heart Colored Killer Ticket. I don't think anyone's ever heard of that, so we're just going to go ahead and move on from there. But in 2006, they created Lerche's Entertainment, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Hibari, and Lerche's mainly with Lerche's creation, we kind of stepped one big step forward in the imminent foundation of Studio Lerche, which was in 2011. Lerche, though, they effectively exclusively create 3D CG animation. They're mainly credited with work on a show. I swear, when I heard about this show, it unlocked a memory in the back of my brain. Monsuno. Have you ever heard of that? Okay, so it was an American-Japanese collaborative effort, and I'm pretty sure, it was initially aired on Nicktoons. It was one of those the shows that was trying to capture, if I'm not mistaken, it was trying to capture the craze of Beyblade and Duel Masters and stuff like that, the kind of the Toys to Life anime series, basically. But Lerche is also credited for titles on Netflix, including Tengan Ashura and Tekken Bloodline. So that's kind of a through line, something that we may have heard of. But Lerche in 2011 was founded, and my entire life up until recently, I decided, I was like, I can't really help but call it Lerche, or Lerche. And then I realized that it was meant to be Lark, and I was like, okay, that's fine, I can train my brain, and then it turns out, no, I can't. So I have to remind myself every so often, it's Lark, not Lerche. But then in 2020, more recently, Studio Hibari acquires Studio Ingresa, I can't help but say the R that way, and it rebrands it as Studio Hibari Osaka Studio. I don't think they've done too much with this new studio yet. I could not find much information on what the Osaka studio has done, but just keep an eye out because I'm sure they're going to start making some moves in the near future. But some of the more well-known Studio Hibari works include Duel Master's Charge and Sacred Lands, Narima Daikon Brothers, and some work done on video games such as Persona 4 in 2008, which had helped with animated cutscenes. And Disgaea D2, A Brighter Darkness in 2013, which interestingly enough was my first exposure to the Disgaea series, and it was my, if I'm not mistaken, that was actually also my very first review copy of the game. Whenever I got in touch with NIS America, I was able to get them to send me a copy of that in 2013 when I was still in school working on Pixcelation Entertainment. So that's also kind of an interesting through line to, welcome, appreciate it, to the topic at large. But we're not here to talk about Studio Hibari. It is important to mention, but we are here mainly to talk about the foundations of Studio Lerche. So let's go ahead and jump into that. I believe Hibari crawled so Lerche could soar. Even though Hibari is still actively creating, it's like, I guess there's a reason why I'm aware more of Lerche than Hibari, because Lerche did a lot of work in the years that I was most active as a YouTuber, so I would watch a lot more of their stuff because of the fact that they were so prevalent, and I was always kind of like, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing that. But their first original series, Lerche's first original series, was in 2011. Now, are either of you aware of the existence of a certain little indie series called Fate's Day Night?
Yeah.
So, Fate's Day Night, they didn't do Fate's Day Night, that was CD. But they did do a slice of life crossover with the characters of Fate's Day Night that I've never seen, but I do know the opening from the meme culture in 2011. So let's go ahead and watch that. Anyone seen Carnival Phantasm?
Why did you just ruin a bad bitch for me?
What
The girl that's always walking around with the archer, she's usually so like bitchy. And then all of a sudden I watched her go like this, and I'm like, oh, you ironically just ruined her for me. Now she's no longer bitchy, she's joyously bitchy.
Well, yeah, but some characters have multifaceted. Your characters are multifaceted. Oh yeah, no, look, there's no such thing as canon in Fate's Day Night. It's all lucid. Just like gender, it is definitely fluid. Anyway, what's up? You got him. Anyway, so let's get Carnival Phantasm 2011. It was directed by Seiji Kishi, who got his directorial debut in 2004 with Yugo the Negotiator for Artland and G&G Entertainment. He's also worked on titles such as Angel Beats, Persona 4 the Animation, and Humanity Has Declined. Carnival Phantasm kind of got a sequel years later in 2021, which was a 4-episode OVA series called Fate Grand Carnival, which of course was just basically the same concept but with Grand Order characters. Because if anything has changed since 2011, it is Fate's Day Night. But this is also, it's not even just Fate's Day Night, it's literally like a crossover between Fate's Day Night, Melty Blood, Tsukihime, and like a couple other different properties. Basically just the Nasuverse combined and just like imploding on itself is what this show is. But it was an adaptation of the manga called Take Moon, which was by Type Moon's Eri Takanashi. and it was to celebrate the studio's 10th anniversary. So basically, if you want to look at it a certain way, Chaos Texture, my independent game studio, in 10 years may have an animation like this, which is all of our games that we created over those 10 years combined into an anime. And you know what? If that happens, I'm totally down. I don't even care. Yeah, I have no problem selling out to an anime studio if that's what they want to do, you know. But yeah, next up is a series that honestly, like, I've heard of in passing, but I have not seen. And that's the thing about this panel, this series of panels, is I'm not pretending like I've seen any of these. I'm not going to like recommend any of these to you. This is just literally a historical, what happened in order. So if I say I haven't seen something, it's not a surprise, because most of these I have not seen. I just know of them in passing. And this is definitely one of those. I just had a thought. Only at an anime convention can you play Japanese music very loudly and it attracts people and doesn't repel them. I often will drive down the street with you know, the Spotify Anime Now playlist on full blast, and I'll stop at a red light and I'm like, and it's like it's just a me thing, but I'm like, meanwhile at AnimeCon I'm like, let's go. But this is Majikoi, Oh Samurai Girls. Directed by Keitaro Motonaga, whose reputation precedes him. He actually directed School Days. Anybody seen School Days? I'm sorry. I think, look, School Days is a series that I think every anime fan needs to, it's like a rite of passage for anime fans. Everyone needs to watch School Days at least once before they really start to call themselves an anime fan, because then you'll know, can I watch more of this, or is this just not the medium for me? But anyway, Keitaro Motonaga directed School Days for TNK. He also directed Katanagatari for White Box, and all 6 of the Digimon Adventure Tri films for Toei Animation, which is like, okay, that's now I'm interested, you know. But yes, this I don't really know much about this. I know that I've heard the name in passing. I've seen the character design. I saw the opening. I was like, okay, yeah, I've seen the character design. I've seen memes from them, but not a whole lot. This was also in 2011. So this is like the first time you'll notice that like Studio Lerche does a lot of series in the same year. You'll see like up to like 4 or 5 in the same year, across the seasons, of course. But it's still one of those things where like they get busy, and it's kind of like MAPPA is today, where MAPPA will do like 50,000 series every season, and they subsequently they are what's that?
Modern day slavery.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of wage slavery. I mean let's just come on, let's just throw this out there. We're not MAPPA's not going to watch this. They're not going to get sad that I'm calling them wage slaves. But it's they're already sad that. But you know, the point being is that, you know, history repeats itself, and I'm not saying that Lerche had wage slavery, because I don't know, but they could have, considering they did like 5 series in 2018, and then they didn't do any more hardly. But that being said, next up is a series I have a very complicated relationship with, and I will elaborate on in a second. But all I will say in the meantime is let's get things going. So who here seen Danganronpa?
Yeah.
And have you played Danganronpa?
I watch.
Okay, so what's up?
I watch all the games.
Okay, you watch all the games? Okay, that's valid too. Because the games are the objectively better way of watching, of experiencing this concept. But even then, the games, V3 completely ruined it, but I'll get to that in a second. So Danganronpa the animation was directed by Seiji Kishi as well. It was followed up by a second season that continued where the second game, Danganronpa 2, Goodbye Despair, left off, but it wasn't an adaptation of Goodbye Despair. It was like, you have to choose. You want to play the first game or watch the first anime, but there's not an adaptation of the second game, so you have to play the second game anyway. Might as well just play the games straight, period. And then, of course, after that, then there's the anime sequel to Goodbye Despair. But we'll get to that in a second, because I actually do break that out into its own entry later on. I have mixed feelings about this season. It's a poor adaptation of a brilliant game that, while it could introduce newcomers to the series and the world, it's much preferable just to pick the game up, because it's like $20. It's like, it's on pretty much every platform imaginable, so you really have no excuse not to just pick it up. I mean, especially it's like 6 hours to consume a half-hearted story, or like, 20 or 30 hours to consume a really, really good story. But if you do pick up the game and play it at your leisure, it will start to feel a little less awkward when you start playing Goodbye Despair, because it's an even better game than Trigger Happy Havoc, and that's probably why they didn't even bother making the anime for that. But because it would just be a better game than an anime, I think. But essentially, the long and short of it, if you haven't heard of it, Danganronpa Animation is basically one of the very first, or not the very first, but it definitely modernized the killing game, battle royale style series that are so prevalent today, it feels like. You got all these high schoolers who are all talented in their own unique ways, and they're like the best of the best of, again, the best of the best, the best of the best of their field, and they are tasked with basically killing each other by a talking stuffed bear. And it's like, okay, the concept was created by Kazutaka Kodaka, which I will definitely talk about him more in a little bit. But let's just say I don't think he's a very good writer. I think that he got lucky 3 times, and then he got a little too cocky and decided to just completely take everything that he's worked for. And that may sound extra, because I am extra, but I do believe after he betrayed me with V3, I don't really mess with him anymore. Even though there have been anime series and games that have been written by him since then, I just can't really bring myself to like rush out and play them. Eventually I will probably, but it's just one of those things where I'm not, like I said, I'm not in a huge rush. It's just like, it is what it is. But yeah, moving on from there. So that's Unbreakable Machine Doll. Anyone seen that one?
Yeah.
Okay. One thing I like about this, I gotta say, is like the face, or the character design, but especially the faces, remind me a lot of Studio Shaft, which I do have a panel on them later on. But it's one of those things, like they have like the kind of I don't know what you would call it, like just the bright coloring, like the way that they use coloring in the faces, kind of makes me think of like Monogatari series in that regard. So I'm kind of wondering who the character designer was, because it very, very well could have been someone associated with them. But this was directed by Kenji Yoshimoto, and he, I'm just gonna say it like it is. Kenji Yoshimoto has worked on a lot of hentai, like a ton. I counted 4 separate titles for adults prior to directing this one. So when I say that he was the director of 7 Mortal Sins and the episode director for the 8th episode of Redo of Healer, you know, this person has a very type. He has a type.
Have you seen this one?
I have not seen this one now.
Okay, so then you wouldn't understand what he does to the clothes and like all the little props that they use.
So it makes sense then that the director has.
Everything is super detailed, and in scenes you can just see panty flashes, and in some scenes like there's just like, you know, a little exposure of bra, or like the cleavage is super detailed in like a scene, or you could see it right here, like
Oh, yeah,
the
that
bust
bottom
on the
bra.
lower one, her dress, the lady in the eye patch is always super detailed.
Okay.
And the guy's mask in the top left corner is always really super detailed. So the fact that he worked on hentai, no surprise to me.
Right. So yeah, that makes sense then. But I am vaguely interested. Like, would you say it's good? Would y'all say it's good?
It is, but it cliffhangers you. And
Oh.
They never did anything past it.
That's anime for you, isn't it? Like, that's the thing. I just kind of, I'm slowly but surely coming to terms with the fact that, like, anime is the kind of medium, like, one of my friends puts it best, that anime is literally just an advertisement for the light novel or the manga. That, like, if you want a season 2, it's cool, so does everybody else, go read the manga, because that's the only way you're going to get it in a lot of cases. Which is really sad when like shows that are objectively beautiful, like I'm in Love with the Villainess, comes out, and then we just cannot get like any announcements whatsoever, and I'm like, man.
No, this is an extremely good anime.
Right.
Just all of a sudden it seems like it gets choppy.
Right.
And then it speeds up too fast, and then all of a sudden you're like ready for the finale, and like it's coming soon. And
There
it's
is one.
yeah.
Well, it might be one of those things where maybe they wanted to end it in the right place, and it just ended up sabotaging them for that.
Yeah. Well, and in the middle of like a tournament arc, not
Right.
to spoil anything, but you're like, oh yeah, we're here, we're in this, and then it's like being in Yu Yu Hakusho's Dark Tournament and never knowing what happens when we get to the battle of like Tagoro, because that's like
Right.
That's like what you get there.
And so that's the thing. That's the difference between like anime today and anime back then. Is that like one, back in like the '90s, there was not really this. The whole like, what I just said about anime being an advertisement for the light novels is somewhat a really recent thing, to be honest with you, because you have like Dragon Ball Z, you've got like One Piece is one of those that just sort of somehow just never changed their business model over the 20 years. You got Dragon Ball, you got Yu Yu Hakusho, where basically they said, okay, we're gonna adapt the entire manga, no cuts, no breaks, it's just gonna be a straight adaptation. And we don't care if we lose money on it. And as a result, they didn't really lose money on it because it continues to be popular to this day. Meanwhile, today it's like they're taking chances with a lot of these smaller authors, and they're not quite confident that it's going to recoup the rewards. So they decide, okay, we're going to make a 12-episode season and just hope for the best. Meanwhile, it's like you've got all these shows that just need a sequel, need a second or third season, and it's like. The consumers are suffering on that regard because now we're just left to be like, okay, I guess I gotta create the anime in my head. Who has an imagination? Come on. But anyway, moving on from there, we are exiting 2013 and going straight to 2014 with Re Hamatora. So this is actually like technically the second season of this series. The first one was done by I think it was ZAM. Is that animation? I can't remember, but I know that like this is one of those series where it started off with one studio and then it was passed off to another, and Lark was the one who did the second season, I guess. So it does continue. It's not a reboot from what I imagine. So definitely don't pick this up if you have not seen the original. But this was in 2014 also. Lark did a series, or a single episode OVA, called Sakura Capsule, about a group of girls who are separated by circumstance and who reunite years later. Imagine the emotions, it's going to be really sad. It was directed by Akio Uhashi, who'd go on to direct The Stranger by the Shore for Hibari, and will also be directing the adaptation of the canceled manga The Magical Girl and the Evil Lieutenant Used to Be Arch Enemies for Bones. It was canceled. I saw that it was canceled and I was like, wait, hold on. Why was it canceled and why are they making an anime series based off of a canceled manga? Until I found out that the mangaka Koko Fujiwara, who also created Inu Etsuboku SS, passed away at the age of 31, leaving the work unfinished. So that made me very sad because I am about to be 31 and I cannot imagine departing this mortal coil anytime soon. So that was one of those things where when I saw that, I immediately was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and put that on my watch list, just even if it's canceled, even if it doesn't ever finish, just to respect the author, you know. But that being said, moving on from there is a series that I'm sure that many of you have seen because it kind of took over the world for just a little bit, and that is a little thing by the name of Assassination Classroom. So, who here has seen Assassination Classroom? Okay, yeah, I figured as much. This is a series that I love. It has it's such a deep place in my heart. It is basically like a worm that has dug its way into my heart. For those of you who don't know, the series is basically about a class of Japanese high schoolers that are kind of looked down on by their society. They're not really exceptionally talented in a lot of traditional means, so they've been placed in a class of just misfits, basically. And one day their teacher is substituted out for a gigantic tentacle monster, and who has supposedly blown up the moon, or blown up a hole in the moon anyway, and is threatening to end the world if they do not kill him within like a year's time. And it's just their last year of high school, learning how assassination can apply in a lot of ways to the teaching curriculum, and it culminates in the only anime that has ever made me cry actual real tears. Look, a little bit about me. I'm not shy about it. I lost my dad in 2014. I watched this literally a year after he passed. Any media that revolves around someone losing their father, it's usually rough for me. I don't not watch it, but I definitely it hits me a certain way. And this was definitely, without saying what happens, because I'm sure you can put two and two together, it definitely hit me a certain kind of way, and what happened was I caught up with the Japanese version of the anime, and then I picked up I caught up with the English version of the anime, then picked up where because usually the Japanese version was ahead, and I caught up with that. And then I caught up with that, and I was like at the very end, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna read the manga for the rest of the way. And at the same time, on YouTube, I pulled up the ending theme song for Assassination Classrooms as backdrop, and as I finished it, I was like, what happened? It's kind of how I read the ending of Attack on Titan while listening to Attack on Titan epic music, and it did make it a little bit better, but that whole last arc is still garbage, so I don't really care. Anyway, this series did receive 2 full seasons of 2 quarters each, totaling to 47 episodes, as well as an 8-episode ONA series, a separate 12-episode ONA series called Koro Sensei Quest. Has anybody seen Koro Sensei Quest? It's a short anime. It has nothing to do with the main series. It's entirely, it has the characters, but it's not like tied to it in any way. And it's basically just them making their way through like a Dragon Quest kind of game. And it's really funny, really cute. It's like, I think it's 12 minutes per episode, I think, and it's super cute. You definitely give it a shot. And it's on Crunchyroll as well. And it also received a recap film with a special anime-only epilogue. And so that if you're interested in that, I have not seen the epilogue yet, so I don't know exactly what it entails, but I'm sure it's just the scene between I can't remember the character's name, Karma and what's the blue-haired guy's name? Nagisa, that's it. So it's probably just a scene between Nagisa and Karma or something like that. It's probably like just a little like end capper. But it was just such a well-told story. I actually remember, it's funny, you know how Facebook has those memories that, from years past, and I actually recently saw one that in like 2014, 2015, it was 2015 when I tweeted, when I wrote this, that I was like, the only way I can see this ending is them just taking over the world. And then I looked back on what actually happened, and I was like, in a way I was right. But at least in the real world anyway. But next up we have a series that is based on the work of a literary author, I believe, Rampo Kitan. So that is Rampo Kitan, Game of Laplace. Unlike a lot of other series, when I say that an anime is based off the work of a literary author, it's like, oh well, yeah, big surprise. Every anime is technically based on the work of a literary author. Apparently, the idea is that it's just based off of the work, like not really an adaptation of any particular thing, but it is based off of the work of author Edogawa Rampo. It seems interesting. The OP is definitely unorthodox. It definitely has that kind of gritty feel to it. I'm kind of very curious to see what this actually ends up playing out as. This was in 2015, and it was joined by a little series let's just say the only way that I could justify showing this next opening without getting on IKKiCON's bad side is if I manually censored it. So, enjoy that. Okay, so I have not seen this, but I definitely need to.
Sure. I don't believe you.
I haven't, and the reason is mostly just because when it came out, I was a poor broke little boy, and I didn't have the capital to spend on a Crunchyroll membership, and then just years stacked on, and I just never went back to it. But that opening, if I'm someone who is an opening connoisseur, that is definitely like gold standard. That's a great opening. I love that.
You don't know the joys of trying to put panties on a lamia. You don't.
I don't even think I would know if I watched it. So,
They'll tell you.
I tricked my grandmother into buying me the first volume of this when I was 15.
Oh!
She was like, this isn't inappropriate, is it? And I was like, no, Grandma, it's super
It reminds me of, okay, so like my grandma, rest her soul, she did not quite understand the anime world as much as I do, which of course all of our grandmothers probably don't understand as much as we do.
My granny bought me Rappy Alley.
Wait, what?
My granny bought me Rappy Alley.
Never mind then. I guess some of us just have some cultured grannies. No, but for real though, I remember one particular, two mini stories I'm gonna break out for y'all. One, when I tried to get my grandma to buy me a Full Metal Alchemist set from Walmart, she literally asked me if this was Christian anime, and I didn't tell her that like there is no such thing. Or actually, I did tell her that, but like I didn't like push the issue. I just kind of said like, I know, but there's not really, and I kind of just backed off from it. And then there was one instance where I was reading Fruits Basket, the manga, and I tried to explain to her the plot of it because I had no one else to talk to about it, and that's who I ended up going to. And I accidentally, instead of using the word clan, I used the word cult. And she said that was for a reason, and she banned me from reading the rest of it. And I never figured out what happened at the end of Fruits Basket. So this was when I was like 11 or 12, so I kind of had to. But and also because I was a very prudish little boy. Again, I did not defy the elders very often. So that being said, Monster Musume. This is directed by Tatsuya Yoshihara, who has a very impressive resume, including work on titles, more recently as Freerun Beyond Journey's End for Madhouse, Chainsaw Man for Mappa, and Gamers for Pine Jam.
This is just interspecies for viewers, for lovers.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. It's like the G-rated. No, hold on. It makes interspecies reviewers makes this look like it's like G-rated. That's a whole another can of worms that I don't want to get into today. But next up, we have a series that, and this is this one was in 2015, and we also next up we have a series that kind of defied the traditional storytelling that most people were expecting, so to speak. And I'm not going to tell you how, because this is a series that is best enjoyed without any information whatsoever. Who here has seen Let the School Live?
Lot.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk about this at all. Go watch School Live. It is actually a legitimately good series, and I'm not even just saying that. It's like I just can't really talk about what it's about for various reasons. This is directed by Masaomi Ando. His directorial debut came in the form of episodes 3 to 24 of Love Alternative, Total Eclipse for Satellite, and Anchor. But he's also worked as a series director on titles such as White Album 2 for Satellite and the recently concluded Shy for 8-bit. The Shy superhero show. And this is a series, without saying anything that's about, I will tell you that this is a series that is a prime example of what I was talking about earlier, with anime that just end, and there's no more, and there's countless volumes of source material that they could adapt, and they just don't. Because when I finished it, I was like, is there more? Or is this it? And I looked it up. There's literally like 5 to 10 more volumes of the manga that literally just got dropped. And I'm like, why? And what's worse is I don't even know if you can even buy the manga in the West. I've never once seen it.
I haven't been able to find it. I've been looking for it everywhere because this is one of my favorite series.
I'm wondering if there's scanlations, because that might be the best way to
It's so good.
Yes.
And like no one knows about it.
Yeah, it's literally like, it's surprising. And I think it's because it's one of those series that you can't exactly talk about the plot of, just because it's like, that ruins the whole point of it, really. But it's still just like, it's so good. Anyway, anyone see an Undefeated Bahamut Chronicle? Yeah. Well, oh yeah, we got one more right there. So either of y'all, would y'all say it's like a good show? Because that's one I haven't seen.
It's decent. It's good.
Yeah.
Is this the same one that he's like the only boy in that school that has like power? Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
It's good.
Sounds about right.
Like it fell through a roof in the first episode.
What's up?
It fell through a roof in the first episode.
Oh, okay.
That's like mostly everything though. For real. He's always doing odd jobs and stuff.
Yeah, this is also directed by Masaomi Ando. I don't really have much to say about this one, honestly. Like I said, this is one of those that I just like, it kind of just needs to be addressed, and then let's move on to the more interesting and important, in my opinion. Remember earlier how I said we'd revisit the Danganronpa series? Well, here is the time. Here's where I have to really just... I've been putting this off for so many years. I have to finally acknowledge this is not a good show. Has anybody seen Danganronpa 3, the End of Pope's Weekend? Okay. So, I have broken this out from the main series, or from the other series, for a reason, because it needs to be talked about, it needs to be addressed. This series was a success in many ways. Its release was one that I do not believe that it could be replicated today, in the sense that it was, on a seasonal basis, it was marked by 2 simultaneous cores. Now, just for those of you who don't know what a core is essentially is just 12 episodes. It's a season. So when you have a series that is like season 1 core 1, season 1 core 2, it's because it's 24 episodes and they're breaking it up between 2 different seasons. But the way this was done is it was 24 episodes over the course of 1 core, meaning there was 1 episode of the series on Mondays and then another one on Thursdays. But it was divided up into 2 kind of halves. One that was called Despair Arc and one that was called Future Arc. And Future Arc it followed the story after Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair, and told the story of kind of how the end of it all came culminated, whereas Despair Arc went back in time and told you the story of the cast of Goodbye Despair, and how it all links up with the whole story at large. Obviously, like I said, Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair was not adapted into an anime for reasons that might be obvious. And the second episode, So, that being said, here's the thing, right? This whole series, the way that they released it actually makes a lot of thematic sense too, because of the fact usually the Future Arc episode of the week would tie into the Despair Arc episode of the week, and it was really interesting because it was like, just thematically, like, if something was mentioned in Future Arc, it was because it was going to be mentioned in Despair Arc. And it was kind of just, they were linked that way, right? So every week it was just kind of like, how is this going to work? How is this going to happen? It had some of the most memorable scenes, and honestly, it just devastated me emotionally. There's one particular scene in Despair Arc where they kind of show you in graphic detail. Those of you who've seen or played Danganronpa 1, you've heard of the most horrible tragedy or whatever. They show you in explicit detail what that tragedy was, and it literally it broke my heart, because it was one of those things where it doesn't matter really, because it's a one and done thing, but the most horrible tragedy that ever happened was just a mass murder in a classroom, and they literally show you the mass murder happen in graphic detail. The only difference is that the blood is pink because it's Danganronpa. But it's one of those things, they introduce this whole new cast of interesting and really compelling characters, and they just murder them in front of you. And you would think, well, that's not a big deal, I don't know who they are. You still feel it, because it's like the way they wrote it and the way they put it on, it's like, this is really, really, like, I'm sad now. I was literally depressed for a week. But then, it also had one of the biggest cop-outs of the series so far, only surpassed by the cop-out that was the entire last chapter of Danganronpa V3 Killing Harmony. I reiterate, Kazutake Kodake is a bad writer, and I will never forgive him when he turned this series and this world, the Danganronpa world, into. It has some of the most potential of any other creative work I've ever seen, and they just squandered it. Has anybody played V3, by the way?
I've seen the game trailers of them. They were pretty good. What
Yeah.
sucks is that they were like adaptation from the video game to the anime. That, in fact, most of the shows that you'll see is basically on the anime. That's why there's like some things like there's no Danganronpa 2 because it's mostly the game.
Right. Yeah. So V3 was marketed as like the first Danganronpa that was not connected to the story at large. It was supposed to be an anthology series. I'm going to save you about 50 hours of gameplay. It's a part of the series. They lied to us, and they basically made it. If it was not connected, it would have been a fantastic game. But that last chapter just completely was like, we told you this was all original and this was not connected to the series at large. We lied. This is very, very connected to the series at large, and we've ruined it for you. And I just like. I will never forgive Hidaka for doing that. Now he's put out some more works, like for example, I don't know the whole title of it, but there's a detective game that just came out, right? Raincode or something like that. Raincode was also by Kodaka. He wrote the Tribe 9 anime. He wrote the that one anime that's like really about like extreme baseball. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like extreme baseball where they like threw a baseball like halfway across a city block and like impale someone's head with the baseball or whatever. That was also by him, and I'm just like, oh no, that is Drive 9. Aokudama Drive is the other one. Aokudama Drive was the one that basically was a bunch of criminals that are trying to fight back against their cyberpunk society, and they look interesting. I'm sure they're really good, but like I just can't get over the stigmata of being associated with Kazutaka Kodaka. But anyway, like if you were to ask, do I recommend this one? I would say, have you played the games? If so, watch it. But just don't play V3, you know? Because it's like, as bad as I think this anime series ended up becoming, it's only bad because of the fact that we have V3. If you just pretend like V3 doesn't exist, this is half decent. It's still a little disappointing, but it's made worse when you have the knowledge from V3. So just kind of don't play that game. Play the other two games. Don't play that game. Or if you do play that game, play until the last chapter and then just accept the ending that you get and don't move on past that. What's up?
Exactly. I would say watch the first season and play the games. That's it.
Yeah, like because it's one of those things. Like, thankfully, you have a choice as to like which part, like which method you choose. But it's just a sad situation overall, honestly.
Like I say, for this, I feel like they just made the first one a little better than the rest.
Right. So yeah, it's like, 'cause the thing that I wish they would have done, honestly, is made this into a game. Because then people would have the consistency to be able to play the first game, play the second game, and play this game. Especially since literally there is a spin-off game that it's a action or kind of an action RPG, like a third-person shooter game set in this universe called Danganronpa Another Episode, Ultra Despair Girls, and it's actually a pretty solid game in and of itself. But this series is connected to that too. They have a whole episode that tells about that. And it's like, if you have not played the spin-off, you will not gonna understand what's going on. And it's like, it's like kind of like Kingdom Hearts, where like everybody just assumes all the spin-offs don't matter, when in reality, everything matters. And so it's just like, yeah. But anyway, moving on from there.
Nomura.
What's up?
Damn you, Nomura.
Yeah, Nomura, yeah, I have a lot of complicated feelings about him too. Moving on from there, though, we have 2016's Magical Girl Raising Project. So, who here's seen Magical Girl Raising Project? Really? Okay, that surprises me heavily, because this is basically the cross between Danganronpa and Madoka Magica. And you might be like, wait, Madoka Magica is already kind of dark. Does it get dark? Yes, kind of it does. This is a series that is essentially, at its core, I mentioned this in my most recent video that aired yesterday, so, plug, go watch my video. But this is a series where, in this world, there's a mobile game app that, it grants like a 1 in 10,000 chance of actually becoming a magical girl in real life. And it's like this, just like a random lottery. And so you take the perspective of the I don't even remember her name. It's been years since I've seen it. But the main girl is the pink haired girl. She wins. She's the Charlie Bucket of this anime. She wins the lottery. She becomes the magical girl. And she goes to like the periodic meeting of her area's magical girls, and the little mascot character who looks just like Monokuma meets Kyubey is like, hey guys, guess what? We don't have enough resources, so we have to start cutting some ranks. There's basically magical girl layoffs, and except the layoffs involve you dying. And so then basically, like at first it's like, hey, collect all of these like soul shards or whatever they're called, and so like they're not at first trying to kill each other. They're meant to do their job and get the reward, which is the shards, to kind of help the energy. But of course, the human aspect of things comes into play, and they all start fighting each other, and it becomes a battle royale. And what's interesting about this one too is that, one, the character design, I don't know who the character designer was, but they are phenomenal. Like, all of these unique magical girl designs is just so interesting to me. Especially one of them is, I'm going to try to be very not spoilerific about this. I think it's actually revealed in like the first or second episode, so it's not really a spoiler. One of the characters is when they are in their normal everyday life, they are a boy, and when they become a magical girl, they become a magical girl. So it deals a lot with transgender issues in that regard, which is early. 2016 was early for that in anime. It was not common by any means of the imagination. And they did it, if I remember right, they did it actually kind of well. It was one of those, I mean, I'm speaking from a very not that community aspect, but I can say from my perspective, it was handled with grace and very well. Also, two of there's like a lesbian couple, a Yuri couple in this series that gets the absolute like beat out of them, and I just felt really bad because I loved them. They were like the best characters of the show, and I just so you can take it or leave it one way or another. You might find it to be a little bit, but you also might find it to be a very interesting depiction of that in an anime that hasn't been really seen a whole lot, since or even before that. But it was directed by Hiroyuki Hashimoto, who also directed Is the Order a Rabbit and its sequel seasons, OVAs for White Fox, Kinema Citrus, and Courage Films production DOA, and as well as Slow Start for Cloverworks. I don't know. Is the Order of Rabbit has been passed around a lot. And what's cool about it though is even though that property has been passed around a lot, they've kept him as the director. So it's clearly like there's this camaraderie there. But Magical Girl Rising Project has been confirmed to be receiving something new. We don't really know what it is yet. Actually, we do, but it's like we're not sure exactly how it's going to manifest. It's an adaptation of there's a light novel series called Magical Girl Racing Project Restart, and I don't quite know if it's like a reboot or if it's like a continuation, but they are making it theoretically, and I'm pretty sure that Lerche is actually going to be the studio behind it. I don't know for sure, but no news has been on that, has been confirmed or announced, but Hashimoto will be directing it as well, so whatever studio, whether it's Lerche or Hashimoto is coming back for that, so that's cool. But yeah, moving on to 2017, we have a series that in yesterday's Guest That OP panel, like hardly anyone knew until the very end, but now you can just lock it away in the back of your head. So this Scum's Wish, anyone seen this one? Kuzu no Hankai? I haven't seen it, but I know what it's about, and part of me is like, look, what is up with all of these anime predominantly featuring high schoolers, and it's all about like human sexuality and stuff? It's like, don't you have like a club to go to after school? Like, isn't there literally anything? Like, you're literally 15 years old. You have anything in the world you could be doing instead of like getting all like angsty and heartbroken about that you don't have a sex life. Like, you have time for that. Like, what the hell? But yeah, that's basically what this show's about, from what I gather. She basically is in love with her teacher. Her teacher's like obviously not gonna go for that unless he's a little sketch, and then he's in love with her with his teacher, and she's also the same way. The teachers are in love with each other, and so they're like, hey, we can just have each other, and we're kind of getting with our teachers by extension, right? Like, it's kind of like an indirect kiss, but it's like a little extra steps, and it's just a mess from what I gather, and that's why I included it in all that four area category. I guess that OP, because it's just like, no one's really like proud that they were seeing Scripps Wish, I don't think. But that being said, this is also by Masaomi Ando, and one of these days I'll probably watch it, but I don't really have a desire necessarily. It's more of a rainy day anime for me. So moving on from there. So I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what this show's about. Has anyone seen Classroom of the Elite? Is it abnormal for me to say that? Because like I watched like half the first season, and I just felt like it was like a slice of life with a bunch of rich people. Is there like something to it? Because obviously the third season came out recently. So
yeah, third season's airing. It's a lot of overly complex scheming and like rich people. You're half right, kind of, but it's a lot of overly complex scheming, and it seems like there's a lot of like, dark backstory that we're not going to touch on kind of thing that they're hinting at.
It seems really interesting to me. I just haven't gotten around to like finishing the first season, but I do have an attention because of the fact that the third season came out, and I saw that and I was like, I really need to like figure out what this is all about, because it does like appeal to my interest. It's hard,
It's a lot of 4D chess.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But yes, this was directed by Seiji Kishi. Also in 2017, aside from this, a 2-episode OVA series called Esha Kron was produced by Lerche about 2 contrasting characters named Esha and Kron. It was directed by Hikaru Yamaguchi, who directed Given, and contributed to the storyboard for the 3rd episode of Bleach 1,000 Year Blood War, when I was watching that. It should be noted that Classroom of the Elite, again, received a 2nd season in 2022, and a 3rd season 5 years after, 2022, 5 years after the first was released, and a 3rd was released in 2024. It's currently airing, if I'm not mistaken. So, there's definitely enough content, and it's kind of like, this is a series that's kind of like Food Wars for me, that like, when I first heard about Food Wars, I was like, okay, that's kind of neat, but like, how is there 4 seasons worth of content? And then like, in the first couple episodes I watched this, I was like, that's neat, but like, how is there 4 seasons worth of content?
Because it's just that good.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it must be. I mean, especially when like my favorite anime are not getting season 2s, and this has gotten 3, and I'm like, clearly there's something to it, you know? But also, so here's a little side note from me personally. I believe that the fall 2017 season of anime was like the best, and mostly because that was when I was most active and I was able to like. But there was also just a lot of bangers in that season, and this was actually one of them, if I'm not mistaken. So it would make sense to me if this was, just part of that really good season. But also moving on to another series that was in that season. So anyone seen Konohana? Okay, yeah. Finally, freaking solid.
I just started it.
Oh, you just started
last
it?
week.
Oh, nice. Good timing. Because it's actually, look, I have certain genres and certain topic matters that I'm not really a huge fan of certain anime. I usually, if it's in warring states, like prehistorical, not prehistorical, but like early historical Japan, I usually don't like those kinds of series just because they're usually very, in my opinion, they kind of tend to be more on the like, I don't know exactly if this is fair to say, but it's like they're more on the slow side for me. And also yokai series are 2 that I'm really not a huge fan of. This is seemingly, this is not a Warring States anime, but this is a yokai anime, and I loved every minute of it. There is an episode, I think it's actually 3, and I'm not going to say what happens because you obviously, but it's going to blow your mind. Because it's one of those things where like, it's the one episode of the series where it's like, they completely flip the script at the very end, and you're like, what? And it's a really cute, really good series that like, I don't know why there's not more than 1 season. They have content, it's based off of a slice of life manga. It needs more. I will literally pay, except I don't have any money, so I have to pay.
Organs.
What's up?
Sell your organs.
I don't know if I'd sell my organs for another season of
Only
Konohana
need
Time.
one.
What's up?
You only need one.
Your liver can grow back.
What I'm saying is, as good as this series is, it's not the anime that I would sell my organs for. I would sell my organs for another season of A Sister's All You Need. But that's just, that's just me. So, but yes, this was directed by Hideki Okamoto, who also directed Mysteria Friends for Cygames Pictures and Bakugan Evolutions for TMS Entertainment. Somehow, Bakugan just continues to exist. Same with Yu-Gi-Oh!
Dual Masters still.
Did you know that Yu-Gi-Oh is still a thing?
Yeah.
Like there is a brand new that just like started like yesterday. But like,
They're making new cards every day.
yeah, it's insane to me. Like this thing's been around for decades at this point.
Even Bakugan got a second.
What's up?
Even Bakugan got a second where they got a new anime.
Right. And it's just I don't understand it. I mean I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just like it's insane because like how can you have a series or a concept that I guess I'll say that lasts for so long, and then you have like legit like master artwork that is like, oh yeah, we're not going to give you a second or third season. It's like, But anyway, that being said,
Yu-Gi-Oh! Go Rush, current one.
Go Rush.
It's been running since that particular season has been running since the series has been running since 22, and then you have the original series 90s. Like,
wow, that's insane. Anyway, moving on from there, we have another one that this is 2017 was a big year for Lerche. We have another one that was also in the fall, Kino's Journey. Did anyone watch Kino's Journey, Beautiful World? Okay. Yeah, no, this was based off the earlier. This was like a reboot of the earlier Kino's Journey. I mean, even though Kino's Journey itself is a novel, so it's more like just a second adaptation of the novel. I have not seen the original Kino's Journey. I know that's a terrible thing to say in this world, but I have not. But this one was fantastic. I loved every minute. Thank you so much. I loved every minute of it. It was so just well told, well written. I don't know if they left anything out of the original novel series, but like they need to make another season either way because I just love this concept. The idea behind it is you have Kino who is traveling around their world with the talking motorbike hermits, and they only spend like 3 days at each location, and it's just kind of like seeing the unique countries that they can visit, and it's just like it's a very slice of life monster of the week kind of thing where every location has their quirks, it has their uniqueness. To be honest with you, there's another series that is not part of Lark's base, but that reminded me of Kino's Journey, and that is Wandering Witch, The Journey of Elena. Is very, very similar in the sense that every single episode, I believe, is a new location and new characters, there's new conflicts, and it kind of it's like the spiritual successor without any real connecting through line, you know. But this was directed by Tomohisa Taguchi, who also directed Persona 4 The Golden Animation for A1 Pictures, Digimon Adventure Last Evolution Kizuna for Toei Animation, and they also, so this is like a kind of the out of the field one that I was like, wait, what? Tomohisa Taguchi also directed Bleach Thousand Year Blood War. Like they're currently directing this one. So if you like the way that series is directed, then definitely check this one out because it probably has a similar kind of through line to that. But moving on from there, we have 30 minutes left, so eventually if I may opt to just skip the openings because unfortunately that's what you got to do when you have limited time. But I'll probably do that starting in 15 minutes, so I'll probably get a few more openings in and then we'll go from there. But next up we're going into 2018 with Hakume and Mikochi. Has anyone seen Hakume and Mikochi? Yeah? Is this one good? Because it does have that Studio Ghibli feel to it that I'm very curious about. Yeah? It definitely has that kind of healing aesthetic, it feels like. Especially the opening, it kind of feels like, well, I kind of got a little shiver down my spine, because I was like, this kind of makes me feel like I'll get healed of my depression a little bit. But this is directed by Masaomi Ando as well, about tiny people in the woods. And, you know, that's a, yeah, exactly. We have Hakume and Mikochi right here. But yeah, moving on from there, we're still in 2018 with 7 Senses of the Reunion. So, I haven't seen this one. I will say this though, based off the description, I have to point this out, that this is basically Anohana if it took place in a video game. Because based off of the description, it's the idea that they all played, they're like basically like you're playing video games with your homies, and then one of them dies, and you're just like, what? And that's basically, and then all of a sudden she's back to life 6 years later, and it's like, wait, hold on, that doesn't happen. And then, you know, from there you just go, you know. But, you know, this was directed by Yoshihito D. Shoji. This was actually his directorial debut, and the only one until he landed season 2 and season 3 of Classroom of the Elite, taking over for Seishi Kishi. So that is an interesting tidbit of knowledge if you are interested in starting that series, that you may notice a directorial difference between. Did you notice a difference between like the direction style of season 1 and season 2?
It's been so long and I'm not sure.
That's valid, yeah, true. So, but if you do notice that, that's probably why, because there is a slight, there was a staffing change. Next up is a series also in 2018 that I really need more of. And I will talk about a funny story about this series after we watch the opening, but this is also watch that. If you have not seen this, oh my god, please watch it. The opening is so misleading. You would think this is a show about best friends all struggling through hard times, trying to stay together because they just love each other so. They are gremlins. They are absolute degenerates, and you love them for it because it's just like everything that they do in the conquest of entertaining themselves is like they literally ruin the lives of people around them, and it's so great. This is directed by Seishi Kishi. Essentially, the concept behind it is the blonde-haired girl was born and raised in Japan, but you know she cannot, and she looks, because she's the child of you know, she's mixed race. and I think like her dad was like in the military or something like that. And like you would think that someone who has a little bit of Western and Japanese, you would think they would have some knowledge of English. She has none. So she kind of. A lot of people are intimidated by her because they expect her to speak English, and she doesn't know English. And then there's Kasumi, who's the girl with glasses, and who also can't speak English. The description goes on to mention. And then Hanako is in the middle, and it's just, they literally create this it's a players club, but it's called like just the pasttimers club basically, and they are just literally every episode is just them trying to keep themselves occupied and at the risk of literally their entire everybody in their school hates them at some point. It's hilarious. I love it so much. It's like the way the anime equivalent, in my opinion, the anime equivalent to It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where you watch it because the characters they're so bad and they're intentionally on purpose, and it's like there's literally nothing redeemable about these girls, but I love them so much. So the story I was going to tell you, I wish Chandler were here because he could vouch for this, but there was a time when I was at Comicpalooza in Houston, Texas. I was presenting a panel where I was recommending the series to an audience. Now, mind you, post-pandemic, or technically we're not post, but regardless, post 2020, should I say, they had all the panels in Comicpalooza have been moved from their respective rooms to the dealer's hall. Weird choice, I know. I can't play guest OP anymore in there because there is literally no way that you can hear anything coming from the audio speakers. All the people are making it, the crowds they make it really hard. But anyway, we were all in this big convention center room. And I decided, instead of showing the opening, I was going to show a clip from this show. And in this clip, one of the girls slaps another girl in the ass, and the sound of the cheeks hitting each other makes a machine gun sound. And when you are in a crowded room, and a machine gun sound goes off, some people might get nervous. I did not think of this. Chandler, my friend Chandler, was walking up to my panel. He heard that sound, and he swears that he saw some cops reach for their guns.
Are you banned now?
No, I am not banned there because I learned my lesson. But I was like, I almost got arrested, or worse. And I laugh at that looking back because I'm like, yeah, well, that makes sense, but I never claimed to have common sense. It's like those memes that's like, I might be stupid, and there's no bottom text, it's just like, I might be stupid. Anyway, moving on from there, we have 20 minutes left, let's go ahead and get through some of these. This is a Radiant, this is a series that is a direct testament to a conversation that is being had in the anime community right now of what is and isn't anime. And I don't really participate in that discussion because literally anime is just cartoons. But it's like there's some people who are so attached to their medium that they have to gatekeep it basically. Look, I'm gonna say it. Avatar: The Last Airbender, it's anime. It's objectively anime. You cannot tell me that it's not anime. It's what that is. You cannot tell, oh, it's not Japanese. You know what? This is not Japanese. This is based off of a French manga. Scott Pilgrim is based off of a Canadian manga. It's all anime. Why are we having this conversation?
Kingdom Hearts fashion now makes more sense.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm not going to get on that soapbox today, but that might be a future video because I need to talk about that. Especially with Avatar coming out with the live action, people are going to be talking about that. So, but anyway, this is based off the French manga by author Tony Valente. It received a second season in 2019, which extended into 2020. And I never really got the hype of this one, honestly. I thought that it started off and it was like, okay, this is a shonen manga. This is basically it's one of those things where, from my perspective anyway, there's a lot of Western content creators who make work that are inspired by anime and manga, Japanese anime and manga, should I say? And as a result, it's filled with cliches and tropes that they used in actual anime and manga like 20 years ago. And it's like this, like you said, this literally is just it has a feel of fairy tale meets Black Clover. And like I'm like I would just rather watch Black Clover, you know, which I'm actually watching right now. Love it, by the way. I did not think I was gonna love it as much as I do. It is amazing.
Black Clover's good.
Yeah, it's so good. And then the openings you cannot like they continue to up the opening game on that.
They say they're gonna make more in the future, but
Well, yeah, I think what happened was they caught up with the manga, and instead of making fillers, they were just like, yeah, they caught up, and instead of making fillers, they were just like, well, we're just gonna not make any more for a while and let it catch up. And then the manga kind of took a hiatus because I think the author is either sick or his wife is sick or something like that.
I gotta say, I thought because it changed to a different.
Oh, that's actually possible too. But I did hear a rumor that it was due to health concerns for something, either him or his wife or something like that. But I think it's a hodgepodge of different reasons for sure. But I'm sure that in like a few years they're gonna come back and be like Black Clover Core 2.
Yeah, they got the manga back already. So.
Well, yeah. So and I'm excited to see where it goes because like I'm only like 70 episodes in, so I still have plenty of time to catch up on it, I think. But moving on, we have Astra Lost in Space, which I'm not going to show the opening for because we got to kind of get through this. Astra Lost in Space is directed by Masatomi Ando. I heard a lot about this one. It kind of released under the radar for me, but I did hear a lot about it from the dub actors because it seems like everybody involved in the dub just genuinely loves this show. Like almost every one of them that I've seen on Twitter just going off about how good it is, and I'm like I kind of want to watch it just for that reason, but I have not gotten around to it yet. If what I gather, it's very much a kind of a slice of life action series set in space, where it has like exploration elements, but it also has just the character growth and like what you would expect from a slice of life series. I'm interested to see what it's about. Next up is a series that some of you may have seen, but you may not know that it was from Lark. So, who here has seen Given? Okay, a couple people. So yeah, this is definitely one of those kind of I think the one series that you're not expecting to see from Lark, but yet it was objective. It was by Lark. Directed by Hikaru Yamaguchi. And it received a film in 2020, an OVA in 2021, and this month it is receiving a second film called Given Hiragi Mix. So there is definitely Given content to be given. Yeah, that's right. You better laugh. Anyway, but yes, from what I gather, this is basically like I have not seen this one yet, but this is from what I gather, it's basically a BL series about a band and the kind of the day-to-day struggle of being a musician, being a working musician, and also having feelings that you just can't quite explain. I'll go ahead and use this as a through line to explain that like I'm not traditionally someone who watches or consumes BL content. Honestly, the only series that I've seen that I honestly loved was Sasaki and Miano, and that was fantastic. I was so enthralled in that. So I very well might start, watch this one just for that sense of like a good story. Like I don't necessarily want it's. Look, in anime, it's kind of a landmine. Okay, there's kind of a minefield when it comes to this kind of. It's not even. I wouldn't even argue that it's a thing in Yuri, but in Yaoi, you kind of have to watch out because some series will will be like, oh, this is a really good story, and all of a sudden you are watching porn. And
James, your hands are so big.
I feel like because of censorship, it happens more often with like manga.
Right.
I cannot count the amount of times where I've been reading manga at work and I'll have to close out and be like, oh fuck.
Right. I literally like I don't know. I just that's part of the reason why I've kind of been like reluctant to start a lot of these series because I can't ever tell where they're going. Like if it's just straight romance, I'm cool with that. But I just don't want to see. I don't want to see that right now.
This one's more straight romance.
Okay, so that's good. Yeah, that definitely. I'll give this one a shot then. Yeah, because it's one of those things where like. I've seen clips and it seems like, oh wow, this is really well animated. Like the characters, the design is nice. Like the music it has to be good because it's a music anime. But it's like I just could never tell how far it went.
You mentioned Sasuke Miyano. Sasuke Miyano is very fluffy, very cheerful.
Yeah.
Definitely like a comfort thing. Do not watch Given if you're not ready to be emotionally dense.
So like angst, like is it angst or is it more like the?
There is angst.
Okay.
There is some fluff as well.
Okay.
There's a a balance.
Right.
But like you are going to be emotional about it, so be warned.
It's the investments in the characters.
Yeah.
Like, their relationships are like,
And like some of the things that they have. Oh gosh.
So is it like, okay, so like Sasuke Mano is like to Horimiya, like the BL version of Horimiya in my opinion, because it's very school based and it's very slice of life, and it's like, oh, they just happen to get together at the end, you know. Whereas I wonder what a hetero version of Given would be, like in terms of the emotional level.
Nana.
Nana? Okay, that makes sense then. Yeah.
This is Nana with boys.
Okay. Do you know what? That actually makes a lot of sense. Okay, yeah. I've only seen like 3 episodes of Nana.
Watch
watch
Nana.
Nana. Boo.
All I know is that Nana it makes a cameo in Golden Time,
Yeah.
and it's like an actual canonical cameo, and I'm like, that's so cool. I love
Is it
it.
like K-On?
What's up?
Is it like K-On?
Oh, no, I would not say Nana's like K-On.
No.
K-On is like fluffy, like.
Hey-on's cute. Ooh, Nana is. I'm gonna cry on the floor for days.
Totally
Yes.
Steven, you should
It's
watch
Mochi
it.
of the
It's
Rock
about
knowing
the
depression.
world.
Because just on a side note, if I'm not mistaken,
I would never
like Nana is the most Yuri coded series that is not actually Yuri, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's why I haven't watched
It's
it.
the Sex Pistols version of
I
you.
always thought Nana was a pretty
As
cool
opposed to
character.
that most yaoi coded anime that is not yaoi is Yukaku no Moriarty.
That's not. It would. I mean, they have the long, slender arms. I would imagine that it's a
They got
clamp
the
thing.
clamp drawing,
It's a
yeah.
clamp thing. That's all.
It's totally like if Moriarty was a good guy, except Sherlock is also still a good guy, and they're kind of gay, but technically not.
I think I've seen this
But they're
show.
like also like really gay.
Right. So anyway, moving on. We're gonna really just skip the openings from here on because we have 7 minutes. But next up we have Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, which I literally like have not seen just because that title is kind of atrocious. I literally
It's
like.
fun.
It might be a fantastic series, but anime. Okay, look, this is a good way. This is a good time for me to explain. Anime creators and light novel creators and manga creators, they need to do a better job of making their titles because their titles are often very bad. I'll talk about this also in Anime Ambush, but there is a series out this season called "The Weakest Tamer Begins a Journey to Pick Up Trash."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I expected that to be a one and done. I was gonna watch at least one episode. And I was gonna say, okay, that's nice. Okay, next. No, it's therapeutic. It's honestly one of the most healing series out this season, and it just has a really bad title. And I'm like, nobody's gonna watch it because that title is atrocious.
I guess that's what I did. I did see it. I have it on Crunchyroll, but yeah, I didn't see it because it looks so weird. I was like,
No, it's nice.
Yeah, definitely give it a shot. It's not what you expect. It's actually very much
I will watch it.
yeah, especially if you have if you know how it feels to like
It's a hard feels.
yeah, if you know what it feels to kind of like be downtrodden and like disrespected around you or by people around you, it's like that's very much it's healing, you know. But anyway, this is a series by Masaomi Ando. Received the short 4-episode spin-off titled After School Hanako-kun, which aired recently, and that will also receive a second season in 2024. The main series is also going to get a second season. No release date exists for it as of yet, but it is coming. It's been confirmed that it is coming. Next up, we have Idly Pride, which was in 2021 and is directed by Yuki Nomi. This is their directorial debut. The only other title they've directed is World Dai Star, which is coming up in a second. But they've contributed to other anime, including Toilet Bound Hanako-kun, School Live, and Monster Musume. Then we have in 2021, we also have Rumble Garandal, which was directed by Masaomi Ando. And then lastly, we have World Dai Star in 2023. This is one that I watched the first episode of, and it had a very interesting twist at the end that I will not divulge here. And I wonder how well they handled it because I have not seen any more than episode 1. But it's very much a like, what if actors were real? You know, that kind of anime. Like, oh man, I love this anime. I wish actors were real. And that's basically the long and short of it. And that's all I've got. This is Pixcelation. Thank you so much for coming here this early in the morning, evening. If you would like I have 2 more panels today. I'm not sure sure what times they are quite yet. I know that one was that.